for the February 24th, 2021 meeting of the Johnson City MTPO Executive Board. We are meeting electronically pursuant to Executive Order 71 issued by Governor Bill Lee. This board is not meeting in a physical location in order to protect public health, safety, and welfare. This meeting is being recorded and will be available to the public via the city's YouTube page, accessible at johnsoncitytn.org/streaming, no later than 2 business days from the date of today's meeting. Pursuant to Executive Order 71, we will now call the roll.
Roll call. Ms. Logan Engel for Mayor Kurt Alexander.
Present.
Present. Ms. Ashley Shelton for Mayor Kathy Bullen.
Present.
Mr. Johnny Deacons.
Present.
Present. Mayor Joe Grandy. Not present. Ms. Rhonda Sawyer for Governor Bill Lee.
Present.
Mayor Irene Wells. Mayor, I saw your lips move, but I think your microphone is off. So you might want to turn it, Mayor Wells, you might want to turn your microphone on for future votes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, got you. No problem. This is just a little different. All right, you're present. Mayor Patty Woodby. Not present. Mayor Chuck Vest or Glenn Rosenoff for Mayor Chuck Vest. Not present. Mayor Joe Wise.
Present.
Present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hey, Glenn.
6 members, and we have a quorum.
Glenn,
Yes.
Mayor Grandy was supposed to be here. He said he had to go up to the school board meeting, but I could have his proxy. So I thought he was going to be on the meeting, but obviously he's not.
Okay. We did when we have a quorum.
Okay.
We're good. We're good. All right. Mayor, I will just, if you don't mind, I will go ahead and open up for the next item.
Please.
Okay. Next item is public input. Since we are meeting virtually, we did advertise this meeting in the newspaper. We put a link in the newspaper as well as on the website for any public comment. We have received no public comment for this particular meeting. And with that, we can move on to item 2.
Right. The approval of the minutes for the December 8, 2020 meeting. Is there any modification to those minutes or a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Deacons. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that?
Rhonda.
Rhonda, thank you. It's hard to follow the squares. So we have a motion and a second. If there's no objection, shall we call the roll?
We shall. Mayor, Ms. Logan Engel for Mayor Kurt Alexander.
Yes.
Aye. Mayor Kathy Bullen, represented by Ms. Ashley Shelton.
Yes.
Aye. Mr. Johnny Deacons.
Yes.
Aye. Mayor Joe Grandy. Not here. No. Ms. Rhonda Sawyer for Governor Bill Lee.
Aye.
Mayor Irene Wells.
Aye.
Aye. Mayor Patty Woodby. Not present, no. Mayor Chuck Vest, represented by Glenn Rosenoff. Not here. And Mayor Joe Wise.
I'll abstain since I wasn't part of that meeting.
We do have enough votes, it passes. So the minutes are approved. All right. Next item. Item number 3, consider the resolution to support the 2017-2021 safety performance targets by TDOT, are commonly referred to as PM1 or performance measures number 1. I just want to give a brief, this is something that we are required to do by the MPO. 180 days after the state of Tennessee sets their targets. We have actually supported TDOT's targets in the past, and we recommend that you continue to do so. I'm going to share my screen here, if I can, yep, and pull up some information for you. All right, let's go down here to item number, there we go. So this is kind of what we're talking about on safety targets. And Jeff, can everybody see this?
Yeah,
I
that's
can
in
see
the,
it.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm just a little, I'm not a Zoom professional, sorry.
yeah, it's
But
on page 11 in the packet.
yes, thank you, Johnny. They have a baseline and the targets. These are formulas that are guided by Federal Highway Administration. And the whole idea behind safety targets is Congress wanted to, we know everybody's very aware of safety, but Congress wanted to say, okay, we want to kind of have a standardized methodology for tracking some of this. These are the targets. You know, in some people's opinions, 0 deaths is what you would like to have. That's not necessarily realistic, unfortunately, because human error or driver behavior is very hard to control, and sometimes you just can't. Jeff Murphy, can you kind of give us an update on what TDOT's doing in the safety area? I know that, and I don't want to speak for you, but I know that you're doing quite a bit, and I just wanted to hand that off to you.
You're muted.
Yeah, Jeff, make sure to turn on your microphone, Jeff.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We got you.
Okay. Yeah, I work in the Project Safety Office in the Strategic Transportation Investments Division. And my primary job is to look at crash data and determine where we can implement low-cost safety projects that are funded by the HSIP program. So the types of projects we do, I mean, you've probably heard, you know, signs and lines type projects. Brandon Darks can speak more to, you know, as far as like what types of individual projects they do. And if we get into a project that looks like it's more than what we call a no plans project, then a no plans project is basically where we don't have to involve design. Because, you know, when you start involving design, then your project time frame really goes out there. So we like to do these low cost projects. Say we go into a 4-lane divided highway location that's got a state route that crosses it, and y'all know how many crashes usually occur, and they're usually really bad crashes when somebody decides they're going to try to make it across those 4 lanes and the median. So we'll put up oversized stop signs and sometimes flashing yellow lights, but then you get into, you know, lights and any kind of reconfiguration of that intersection, then we might get into design. But that said, we're probably starting somewhere around 150 or so projects a year, and these projects to be funded by HSIP have to meet criteria. So they have to have so many fatal or suspected serious injury crashes at that location within a 3-year time period before we're allowed to use HSIP funds. But we typically utilize all of those HSIP funds and need more money every year. Do you want me to say anything about just the safety targets, performance targets process?
Yeah, just a little, because it is a rather complicated process you all go through. And I do know you've worked with the Tennessee Highway Safety Office to develop those. So yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we've got a committee that already this year looking at coming up with these targets for the 5-year average for 2018 through 2022. We've already had 2 meetings this year to try to set those targets. Now, we'll set those targets before June because we share 3 of the targets. I believe it's the number of fatalities, the number of serious injuries, and the fatality rate are targets that the Tennessee Highway Safety Office always they have to submit in their annual report. And our targets for those 3 have to match. So we work very closely with Tennessee Highway Safety Office. There's about 40 people that usually attend our meetings. And right now I'm having a meeting every month from January through June. Now, what we typically do is we're looking at, what are the influencing factors that we're looking, we'll consider this past year that the pandemic had a pretty major influence on traffic, but it didn't seem to reduce fatalities. So, we think that's maybe because with less traffic on the road, people drive faster. And when you drive faster and have a crash, you usually don't make.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate that update, Jeff. I will say one thing for the City of Johnson City Police Department. If you're ever involved in a crash, you will get a crash report. And included in that, there will be a sheet of paper that strongly encourages you to wear a seatbelt. The reason I know this, I was rear-ended in January, and when I got my crash report, that was on there. So I just wanted to let you know that local jurisdictions take this serious too. So
Okay.
are there any questions on that? And I can put that chart back up, or it is on page 11 in your agenda if you need.
I'm just curious why the target fatalities is increased over the baseline. Seems sort of counterintuitive to aim for 30 more.
And Jeff, I will have to let you answer that one.
Well, the baseline, I'm not sure that I can answer that right now. The baseline is, I just can't give you a definition of exactly how we come up with those numbers.
Okay, and put it this way, that is something we can research and get back to you all. I do know that has been brought up before, but we can research that, Mayor. And
I would just be curious how the 2 numbers
Well,
evolve.
I can explain that, Joe. The anticipated baseline has still got estimated numbers in it. And so the target is a target we set based on not knowing 2 years worth of data.
Okay.
Okay, so the baseline actually changes each year as we get more real data, and don't have estimated years in there. So now that we've got some preliminary 2020 data, we won't know what the actual 2020 official fatalities are until the end of 2021. That's
Okay.
how complicated it is. But you could look at the baseline as, it looks like we're going to be within, for this year, our target was 107.8.8, and the baseline at this point is 103.9.8, but that baseline can change once the actual numbers come through.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. And we'll make the, they'll assume that we make the target as long as our target is higher than that actual number that comes out, for the actual numbers of fatalities and serious injuries and the rates and so forth.
thank you, Jeff. And I forgot, there is a lag time by the time, those crashes actually happen, by the time you all actually get the data from the Department of Safety and analyze that.
Right.
So I should have mentioned that.
And Glenn and Mayor Wise, this is Sean from Federal Highway Administration. If I can just briefly add, part of that complication does come from the federal regulations, which require that this be a 5-year rolling average. And so when Jeff and the safety working group are setting these targets, you're looking at, as Jeff was mentioning, about 3 years of actual data, 1 year of sort of estimated, and then setting a target for what the performance is going to look like for that next year. And it's a relatively complicated process that has to be gone through, and then it's also difficult to affect a lot of change any given year because we are dealing with, again, past performance across 4 years essentially for this target. So it's FHWA regulations do encourage a data-driven process, and there are various regression analyses and different considerations that Jeff and the folks at TDOT are taking into consideration. But Mayor Wise, if there's anything that we can do at the Federal Highway Administration to help you get up to speed, I know these performance measures are pretty complicated stuff, and I know Glenn's still got to go through another 2 batches of them. But just we're happy to help out any way we can.
Thank you. So do we need to take a vote on the resolution, Mr. Berry?
We do.
All right. Is there so we still would need a motion to pass the resolution. Actually, before we do that, we should note for the attendance that Mayor Grandy has joined us.
And I've also noted Mayor Woodby is here as well, and Pete Peterson.
Oh, very good. Okay. So is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-01?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Sawyer. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
All right, Ms. Engel. If there's no objection, let's call the roll.
Okay. Ms. Logan Engel for Mayor Kurt Alexander.
Yes.
Aye. Mayor Kathy Bullen.
You have enough for a quorum if I abstain on this one, right?
Yes, I
Okay,
do.
let's do that since this is, she's a new mayor and we're trying to gather all the information we can.
Okay, that'll be fine. Mr. Johnny Deacons.
Yes.
Mayor Joe Grandy.
Yes.
Aye. Ms. Rhonda Sawyer for Governor Bill Lee.
Aye.
Aye. Mayor Irene Wells. Mayor Wells?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay. Mayor Patty Woodby.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Vest. Absent, not voting. Mayor Joe Wise.
Yes. Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Next item. The next item, as we move through, is on the next performance targets. I'm going to share my screen again. So, and let's move on down to. All right, these targets actually affect the Tennessee Department of Transportation more than the MTPO. For this particular reason, I want to go over 2 items. In the past, we have supported TDOT targets. These are on the national highway system. Johnson City, none of the jurisdictions in the Johnson City MTPO actually own any of the roads on the national highway system. In some areas, local jurisdictions do own those roads. And what I mean by that, they own them and are responsible for maintenance. In our area, they are not. We do not own those. So that is why we have suggested, recommended that we support their targets and also on their bridge targets. I will say this, if you're interested, you can actually go to state law and look on the bridges in the Improve Act. It is actually listed in TCA, the bridges that are listed for the Improve Act to be improved. So that is also a good indication. TDOT is working very closely on bridges to get those in better shape. And on pavement management, I will say this, I think TDOT does a very good job in our area on keeping the roads paved. TDOT actually has a list on their website of what's going to be paved. They do coordinate with local jurisdictions. And I've got to mention this, especially on interstates, one of the best things I have seen TDOT do is go to that large aggregate asphalt overlay. It wicks the water off of the interstate very well and pushes it to side. You say, well, what does that do? It actually relieves that spray that comes up that you would see on some interstates, so that blinding water is no longer there on your windshield. That is the information I've got on performance targets, and they do go through another complicated process to get these numbers on the targets. And there is an increase down here at the bottom, and they've changed it from 4% to 5% on their 4-year target. And are there any questions for the group? All right, if there's not, we will need a motion to approve and a second.
Irene Wells, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
That was Johnny, wasn't it, for the second?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we will do a roll call vote. Mayor Kurt Alexander, represented by Ms. Logan Engel.
Yes.
Aye. Ashley Shelton for Mayor Kathy Bullen.
I'm gonna abstain. We're just taking information.
Okay. Mr. Johnny Deacons.
Yes.
Mayor Joe Grandy.
Yes.
Aye. Ms. Rhonda Sawyer for Governor Bill Lee.
Aye.
Aye. Mayor Irene Wells.
Aye.
Aye. Mayor Patty Woodby.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Vest, or Glenn Rosenau for him, not voting. And Mayor Joe Wise.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Passes. And we're ready for the next item.
Next item is consider approval of the resolution to support transit agency, I guess item 5, safety performance targets.
Yes. Let me share the screen again, and I believe I have Jeff and Candace. And Candace, I've noticed your, yeah, there you are, Candace Long. Your name has changed.
Yes, it has. I have recently been married, so I am no longer Candace Gump. I am now Candace Long.
Okay, thank you. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let me see, I'm getting ready to share again. Let's go down to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I miss something? No, here. Let's see. There we are. Yeah, I do need to go back and correct one thing there. I do need an explanation, I think, just to cover everything. The other performance target I did not mention. And just to make sure we're covered, I'm going to ask for a vote again on this. And I apologize, this was my misstep. I missed PM target performance measure 3. So we're going to hold off on the safety targets and go back to PM3 for a minute. And that is in that previous resolution. I apologize, that was my mistake. When we're talking about freight reliability, is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. And I apologize for that. On freight reliability, this is another performance target. And I talked to several people at TDOT, and Michelle Nickerson out of the traffic operations office, she was actually stating that I was thinking more along the lines of congestion. And very simply stated, if the number goes up, it's not good. It should go, the lower the number, the better. So 1.37 is slightly less reliable than 1.35. The freight reliability is not a measure of congestion, although congestion plays a part in it. It's really, and the easiest way to explain it is the way she explained it to me. If you're driving, let's say from Kingsport to Johnson City on Interstate 26, you know what the traffic is going to be like, and consistently from a time period in the morning, let's say 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So you can plan your trip around that estimated time or what it normally takes. When the variabilities come into play, in other words, when there may be something happen on I-26 and that shoots up, causes delay, that's what they're measuring, is that kind of that, how reliable is that interstate? So it's not necessarily congestion, but how consistent is. And Sean, is that, am I interpreting that right?
Yeah, Glenn, that's exactly right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. It is again, it's a complicated federal performance measure. We don't like to, like you said, Glenn, we don't like to frame it as a measure of congestion per se, because it's not volume over capacity or something like that. But it is basically, you said it better than I can, Glenn. So it's exactly how reliable the roadway operates. Yep.
And I can't take credit for that because I was a little confused until I talked to Michelle, and she explained it very well to me. I also would point out that on this particular measure, instead of a percentage, Federal Highway requires they do a ratio. So that's what it is. And bottom line, like I said before, let's go back, lower to 1 is better. So are there any questions on that? All right, and I know this is a little odd, but since I did make this, and this is part of the previous resolution, I would like to make sure we vote on that again, and if everybody concurs on that, and that was my mistake.
Make the motion.
Okay, Rhonda,
Second.
Johnny, and roll call. Ms. Logan Engel.
Yes.
Mayor Kathy Bullen, represented by Angela Shelton.
We're abstaining for right now.
Okay, and I will call your name just for the official record.
Okay.
Not picking on you. Mr. Johnny Deacons.
Yes.
Mayor Joe Grandy.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Rhonda Sawyer for Governor Bill Lee. Aye. Mayor Irene Wells.
Aye.
Mayor Patty Woodby.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Vest. Absent. And Mayor Joe Wise.
Aye.
All right. Thank you for that. Now let's go to the where I thought I was at. All right. We also have performance measures for transit agencies. As you know, Johnson City Transit operates in the Johnson City urbanized area. So does Northeast Tennessee Transit Agency, commonly referred to as NetTrans. They do allow for each transit agency to set their own targets. And these are the VRM, or vehicle revenue miles. So at this point, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Jeff Rawls and Candace if there are any questions on any of these targets. And Jeff, you all develop your own targets within the side, JCT, and Candace, the same for you. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. It was in conjunction with the safety plan update that we worked with TDOT on.
Okay.
That's the same for NetTrans. We're participating in the TDOT sponsored public transit safety plan. So they develop the performance measures and the criteria for how the targets are calculated, and we just input our data.
Okay. All right. If there's no further questions, then we will need a motion and a second to that Mayor Joe Wise. That's I didn't mean to take your authority there on that one.
That's all right. That's what I was going to say.
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
A second.
All right.
You
And we
like-
will do the roll call. Mayor Kurt Alexander, represented by Miss Logan Engel.
Yes.
Miss Ashley Shelton for Mayor Kathy Bullen. Is your mic off, Ashley?
No, I was abstaining, sorry.
Okay, got it. I thought that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure. Mr. Johnny Deacons.
Yes.
Aye. Mayor Joe Grandy.
Yes.
Miss Rhonda Sawyer for Governor Bill Lee. That was an aye, wasn't it? Rhonda, yeah.
Yes, it was an aye.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Irene Wells.
Aye.
Got it, aye. Mayor Patty Woodby.
Yes.
Aye. Mayor Chuck Vest. Not present. Mayor Joe Wise.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. All right, Mayor, that takes us to item number 6, Mayor.
Yes, and I believe those are updates from staff.
Correct. I want to give kind of a quick update on the MTPO. Staff, we have several things that are going on. Like I kind of mentioned, MPO sometimes goes in cycles. We're going to be busy for the next 2 to 3 years. We've got a lot of work to do. We're currently working on our Unified Planning Work Program that actually outlines what the MPO will take on for the next 2 years. We're working on the draft for that program now. We also have a transportation management study that is underway. That is actually looking at, okay, everybody knows the new census is coming out. We'll see what happens. And one of those items with the census is something called the urbanized area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a screen with you so you can actually kind of see this. If I can bring my video back up. There we go. I have to talk to myself sometimes to make sure I've got everything going. And let's share this. I want you to give you some idea of what we're talking about when I talk about urbanized area. This green mass, or this green outline, shaded green area on this map, is what the Johnson City urbanized area looked like in 1990. It is defined by the Census Bureau, not us, not TDOT, not FHWA. Census Bureau does this. So 1990, year 2000, they changed some of their criteria and population changed as well. But you'll notice this long streak. It's Upstate Route 91, lovely referred to as Stony Creek, that goes in Carter County. And I don't know if you can see my mouse moving or not, but it is on the right hand of the thing. They had this thing called hop skips. I call it hop skips and jumps, but I think it's called skips and jumps in the language. So we got some of these peculiar little outliers hanging up. And they did, and in the Census Bureau's mind, this was urbanized area. I do remember in the past trying to explain that to some of the elected officials, specifically Mayor Pete Paduch. It was hard to explain, and I had to agree with him. Some of these areas did not need to be urbanized or classified as that. But as we move on, we go to 2010, and you see it changes again. So here we are now on 2020, and guess what? It will change again. Federal U.S. Census Bureau just released last Friday the criteria for defining what is an urbanized area and what is not. We are currently reviewing that. We can send in email comments, but that's about it. We have no real say in how they define that. We can comment on their process, and that's about it. So we're reviewing that. It can affect, and this urbanized area is the base geography that our funding is based off of. So that's kind of where that is that on that. The other two things I did want to mention very quickly, we will most likely be having a meeting in April, sometime after Easter. We'll be looking at TIP amendments, and we have recently been notified by the Tennessee Department of Transportation that received some, or we will receive some, what do you call it, COVID relief funds. This was a letter come to their chairman, and it is based, that urbanized area that I just went off of, that goes into the formula of what the MPO receives. So Johnson City received $698,130, or will, for that, from the Federal Highway Administration, or highways, on COVID relief funding. We do have to have these, or TDOT has recommended that we have these funds obligated by, let's see, I believe that is December 31st of 2022. Let me make sure. Yes. December 31st of 2022 we have. So we will come back as a group and kind of decide, okay, what are we going to spend these funds on? Keep in mind, it still has to meet all the federal eligibility. So we just can't go out and spend it on anything. There are certain requirements. The other thing I did want to mention, we're going to we're planning on entering in a partnership with TDOT to update our regional ITS architecture. That is a requirement to continue to receive federal funds on certain categories of project, everything from AVL on transit buses to coordinated signals. But it doesn't give us any funding. It is just strictly meeting the requirement to allow us to use certain categories of funding. And I will say TDOT has been very supportive of this effort, and they are planning, we have asked them to match that RPL funds for this, and they have verbally agreed. We will go through that actual process when we amend the UPWP. And that's really all I have on that. So I will turn it over to the Tennessee Department of Transportation if there's any updates from them.
Hey, Glenn, thank you very much. Hopefully everybody can hear me pretty well. I'm talking through my laptop speakers. Hopefully it's not too distorted. I did want to give a little bit of an update on the status of the Urban Transportation Planning Grant. This again was our pilot year for this initiative. It's similar to the CTPGs that you may be familiar with, but this is for urban cities within the MPO boundaries. You all received an award for Johnson City on the State Route 354 corridor study in the town of Jonesboro and Washington County. We are currently awaiting proposals from our on-call consultants. They're due March 1st. So after we have a chance to evaluate, and we will include you all in that evaluation process. It can't be official based on the way our contracts are set up, but we can receive input from you in the form of a letter of recommendation. Again, they're due March 1st. We'll evaluate, and we anticipate to release a notice to proceed somewhere in the middle of April to get these projects going. So we're excited that we are underway, and we're looking forward to seeing how this first year works out with these urban transportation planning grants. That's all the updates from TDOT.
And Rhonda, one question for you. Is there anybody here who could possibly give us an update on State Route 91 project in Elizabethton and Mayor Wells's, I call it Mayor Wells, but the traffic signal at Bluff City? I will give you an update on that. The contract has been awarded on that project, Mayor. I don't know the timeline on that, but if there's anybody here who can maybe give more details on that, Rhonda.
Michael Dick and Jason Farmer, they're on.
Okay, great. And just take whichever project you want first.
I may let Eric Wilson talk about the 91 project in Carter County.
Okay.
But as for the signal job there in Bluff City, Lynn, you are right. It has been awarded. Pre-construction date has not been established yet, but they are supposed to be done with the project by November 30th of this year.
Okay.
So once a pre-con is scheduled, Ms. Wells, then I'm sure that your folks, your staff there in Bluff City will be invited to that so that they'll know what's going on as the project moves forward.
Thank you.
Eric, do you want to talk about the State Route 91?
Sure. Hello, everybody. On Carter State Route 91, we are really starting to wrap that one up. I know it's been delayed several times, but we have it currently in the June letting, so that's coming up pretty soon. And some of the outlining issues, like some utilities that needed to be moved, and they needed to purchase some private property, some easements to be able to move out of the construction area. That's starting to wrap up, and that's really the last items left. So we're finally feeling very confident that we have a good letting that it's going to go ahead and get certified. We'll know for sure probably around May. That's about when those projects for June get certified. So, but all signs are looking good for the June letting. And once that's awarded, that'll follow kind of the same path. They'll set a schedule for it, and we'll hold a pre-con and everything like that. But I know y'all have heard about it for a long time and ready to start seeing it actually being built. So sounds like that's becoming a reality finally.
Thank you, Eric. And for those of you who don't know, State Route 91, the section they're talking about is through Elizabeth and near around Powell's for that area down to the Y intersection. And I don't have, I haven't seen the plans exactly, but that's the area they're talking about. So.
Yeah, if y'all have any specific questions about the plans, I'll be happy to answer for you.
Okay. All right. So that's all the two projects I had for that from TDOT. So I guess the next one is Federal Highway Administration.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Yeah, first off, welcome Mayor Wise, Ms. Shelton, Mayor Bullen. My name is Sean Santaya. I'm a transportation planner with the Federal Highway Administration Tennessee Division out of Nashville. And so what we do is we provide assistance and oversight of Tennessee DOT and the folks at the MTPO there and carrying out the transportation planning process. So we're here to help you guys out however we can. I've just got a few updates for this meeting. As you all are probably aware, Secretary Pete Buttigieg has been confirmed as the U.S. DOT Secretary. Stephanie Pollock has also been named FHWA's Deputy Administrator, so one of our leadership positions within the Federal Highway Administration. And Ms. Pollock was previously the Secretary for the Massachusetts DOT, so we're looking forward to her bringing that state DOT perspective to Federal Highway Administration and just continuing to strengthen our partnerships with the state DOTs. On the funding front, a lot of good news on that area. Glenn already alluded to the funding that was released as a result of the Coronavirus Response and Relief Act. That was about $12 billion across the country that was released in December by Congress as part of two separate appropriations acts there. About 230 or so million of that is going to Tennessee, and then, as Glenn mentioned, a certain amount of that is going to be used in the various urban areas across the state, and that funding is relatively broadly flexible in terms of eligible projects. Essentially, it's equivalent to our surface transportation block grant eligibilities. So this would include, construction on a variety of different types of projects. There are multimodal opportunities and various other things. And then there is a small portion of that funding that is even eligible for uses that would normally not be eligible for federal aid, so preventative maintenance, salaries, and other potential revenue losses as a result of the pandemic. So that's those are potential opportunities trying to be responsive to the pandemic that federal aid would not normally be able to be used for. So we've sent apportionment notices and some guidance to the MTPO staff, and we'll send any other guidance that we receive on that as it becomes available. Also wanted to mention that last week USDOT issued a notice of funding opportunity for our fiscal year 2021 infra program, the Infrastructure for Rebuilding America discretionary grant program. Available funding nationwide for that notice of funding is $889 million. This is for projects on the National Highway System, the National Highway Freight Network, or intermodal freight projects. And the new administration has brought some new considerations for project selection for that. A couple of things that they're going to be focusing on are climate change, environmental justice, and then racial equity and reducing barriers to opportunity. So they'll be looking for projects that achieve or make progress towards those outcomes. The deadline to apply for that discretionary grant program is March 19th of this year. So I'll send a link for more information on that to the MTPO staff, to Glenn and Mary there.
We've got it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we've already been reviewing it.
Okay, cool. And then just more locally here, just want to take the time to thank the MTPO board on the work done today on the target setting actions. These are federally required performance measures, pretty complicated in nature, and pretty require a lot of cooperation between the state and the MTPO. So we just wanted to recognize you guys and thank you for that work. Also, Glenn, the transportation management area study that you guys are doing, we've said this before, but really want to recognize the forward-facing nature of that, and getting prepared as best you guys can for the results of the 2020 census and the potential impacts to the planning process there.
And Sean, I did want to mention one thing. Do be prepared. We will be calling on you for some data and information on that.
Okay.
Just wanted you all to be prepared. So we will be in touch with you. We've already talked about that with our consultant. So
yeah, absolutely. Whatever we can do to help you guys out, just let us know. So that's all that I have. I'm happy to take any questions, and looking forward to meeting some of the new board members as soon as we're able to travel again and everything. Hopefully soon here.
All right. Are there any more updates? Mayor, that's it's if there's nothing else, you can call for adjournment.
I'll call for adjournment. Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Thank you all. I do want to thank you all for coming to the virtual meeting, and have a safe day.
All right. Bye now.